guys, we're going to be talking about digitizing today. So if you ever talk to any digitizer and ask them how they charge for digitizing services, you'll soon realize that there's no consensus to how to price their services. While some people will charge a flat fee for a particular design, others will have a more nuanced approach to charging their digitizing fees. That's why in today's episode, I'll be going over some pros and cons of how to price your digitizing services and recommend one that I've seen work the best for the majority of digitizers in this industry. Now, I know I've been on hiatus for a little bit and haven't been posting much, but that's because we've been behind the scenes working on a lot of new projects. All right, before we jump into today's episode, if you're new to this channel, my name is Henry Ma. I'm the CEO of Ricoma, and this channel is dedicated to teaching you everything you need to know about the apparel decoration business so you can start and scale in this industry. If you're new here and you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to this channel so you keep up to date with the latest videos as soon as they come out. And if you enjoy content just like this, make sure to smash that like button and give this video a thumbs up so it lets us know what type of content you would like to see. All right, the first method that we'll be talking about is basing your digitizing prices on stitch count. Now, first and foremost, one of the pros of pricing based on stitch count is that your digitizing services is super simple to price because it simply depends on the number of stitches in a design that you're trying to do. With this pricing method, it's super easy to understand for customers, and the pricing is pretty consistent from project to project, and there's no confusion because it's simply based on the number of stitches a design has. Now, on the flip side, one major con of this pricing method is that it doesn't take into account the complexity of the design because it simply puts a flat rate on the number of stitches that the design has. A simple 5,000 stitch design is going to take a lot less time to digitize versus a complex 5,000 stitch design. As a simple example, imagine having to digitize the Nike swoosh logo and compare that with a more complex design that involves small letters and parts that are cut out of the design. While they might have the same number of stitches, they're not created equally. The more complex the design gets, even though the number of stitches might be the same, you have to take into consideration push and pull compensation as well as the density of the design in a more complex logo. All right, the second method that we'll be talking about is charging your digitizing based on a flat rate. Now, this is slightly different from the previous method in that the flat rate is simply based on the size of the design and not so much taking into consideration the number of stitches in the design. Some examples of flat rate pricing can be $10 for a left chest logo or $25 for a hat logo. Now, the pros of this method should be pretty self-explanatory and very similar to the previous method in that it's very easy for customers to understand and it keeps a strong consistency from project to project. Now, one major con of flat rate pricing in terms of digitizing is that because it depends on the size or the placement of the design, you can many times underprice your digitizing services and therefore cut into your profit margins. If you get a lot of complex designs as a request, even though they might fit into the area of a left chest logo or in the front of a hat, if the design is much more complex, it will take you a lot longer to do and therefore might be eating into your margins as you spend more time on digitizing that logo. To counteract this, a lot of digitizers will actually charge a little bit more for simpler designs so that they balance out the time that they'll lose on more intricate projects. Because it's flat rate based pricing and there's no one size fits all for every sort of project under the sun, it is very hard to get the pricing right, and you might many times undercharging for some more intricate projects and overcharging for simpler ones that might drive some customers away. All right, the last method that we'll be talking about in terms of pricing your digitizing services is based on an hourly rate. When you charge an hourly rate for your digitizing services, one of the major pros is that you can make sure you're compensated for the time that it will take for digitizing that design. So if it's a simpler design, you will take less time on it, therefore charge less, versus a more complex design that will take you more time to digitize and you can charge more for it. This way, you won't have to worry about overcharging for simple designs or undercharging for more complex designs. In fact, it will just charge based on the time that it'll take you to complete that digitizing. On the flip side, one of the cons of pricing based on an hourly rate is that it will be very difficult for you to quote the customer up front because it's hard to know how long it will take you to complete the digitizing for that particular design. Without actually actually digging into the complexity of the design and actually studying it and taking some time to provide that quote, it's hard to give an estimate to your customer and therefore leave your customer hanging when they're looking for a quote for your digitizing. Pricing based on an hourly rate can also lead to a lack of transparency and therefore trust from your customers because they don't really know how long it will take you to digitize that design. It might just be based on the number of hours that you say it will take without actually them knowing how long it will take you, and therefore the lack of transparency might drive some customers away. An additional factor to consider when pricing based on an hourly rate is that it really depends on how fast you're able to execute the digitizing for that design. In a way, if you're charging based on an hourly rate, it will really depend on your efficiency in digitizing. On the one hand, if you're super quick and very skilled, you might be able to finish a complex design in a short amount of time and therefore charge the customers less for that design. On the flip side, if you're not so skilled and are a beginner, you might be charging more to that customer for a simple design because it simply takes you longer to complete that digitizing, and you might drive some customers away because you're not as efficient. So definitely your skill level in digitizing plays a much bigger factor if you're considering charging based on an hourly rate. By the way, speaking of digitizing very quickly and improving your speed and efficiency in digitizing, check out this video we have on this channel where I go over the do's and don'ts of digitizing to help you become a faster digitizer. You can check out that video in the card above or down in the description below. So now that you've learned about these 3 different ways to price your digitizing services, which one should you use for your business? My recommendation is actually to have a hybrid approach to pricing your digitizing services so that you have a more well-rounded approach to quoting. A hybrid pricing model on digitizing ensures that you can price your digitizing services very easily for customers for a simple design while taking into consideration more complex projects that will take up more of your time and therefore price accordingly. With hybrid pricing, which takes into account a combination of flat fee-based pricing and hourly rate-based pricing, you can charge a standard fee no matter how big or small the project is as a standard fixed cost. So even if it's just a simple name that you have to embroider, you at least meet a minimum price that you have to charge for your time. Most customers are very understanding of that, and for a super simple design like just a name, you're not undercharging if you just charge on time. Then on top of that, you adjust your pricing based on the complexity of the design you're looking to digitize. For example, if a customer wants multiple colors blended together in a nice design, kind of like a gradient, you'll charge extra for doing that. Also, if a customer wants a 3D puff design on a cap, you'll know that it will take you longer to finalize the details and the intricacies of that 3D puff design, and you'll charge accordingly. So this hybrid pricing model couples the best parts of a flat fee-based model with the best parts of an hourly rate-based model so that it takes into consideration the size of the design, the complexity of the design, and still maintains a minimum charge so that you can make sure that it's still worth your time to start this project. This hybrid model also ensures fairness in your quotes to your customers, since you'll be able to quote simple designs at a fair rate and add on to the pricing with more complex designs. All right, you guys, I hope that was helpful for you. Some of the final takeaways that I'll leave you with is that now that you know the pros and cons of these different pricing models, try to incorporate a hybrid pricing model in your digitizing services. Charging based on a hybrid model is both fair to you so that you are compensated for your time, as well as being fair to your customers so that you can be more competitive against the competition. In addition to that, you can also provide more transparency with your pricing to your customers, and you'll get rewarded for that and more loyalty from your customers. With this hybrid pricing model, you not only take into account a base pricing for simple designs, but you also take into consideration more complex designs that will take up more of your time, and therefore you price it accordingly. All right, with that said, if you're looking to do digitizing in-house instead of outsourcing it and therefore generate more revenue for your business, check out a free trial that we have to offer for our Ricoma digitizing software, where you can download that in the link above or down in the description below. You can try it out free of charge and see how you like it. You can play around with the interface of the Ricoma digitizing software to see how you like it and see if this is something that you want to bring into your business to generate additional revenue in terms of design services and digitizing. As always, make sure to follow us on all of our social channels down below. We're active on Instagram and on TikTok for some entertaining content. We also host a bunch of giveaways on Instagram, so if you're not following us there, you'll miss out on upcoming giveaways that we do every single month. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and like this video if you found it helpful. Last but not least, join our free Facebook group, Embroidery and Custom Apparel Mastery. There's now over 30,000, I believe even closer to 40,000 embroiderers and apparel decorators in there sharing their tips and tricks of the industry, and you can be a part of the conversation. All right, that's it for us for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.